Heroes are born. They walk the earth like giants. They love, they suffer, and in time they're forgotten. Forgotten by people, perhaps, but not by the forest. The forest remembers all stories. This is a story woven into the knots of gnarled trees, bound to old temple stones like ancient lichen. It slips through the shadows of swaying trees like a dance of longing, whispering of what once was. This isn't a gentle story like a carpet of moss. It's a monsoon of arrows. Listen if you're ready. Listen to the tale of Rama and Sita. But before we speak of Prince Rama and Princess Sita, we must first speak of an evil man that once roamed the great forest. In the howling winds, you might still hear the ring of his blade. In the shivering leaves, you might still hear the terror he left behind. His name was Ratnakar, demon of the woods, a cold killer, less man perhaps than tiger. But names are slippery things, and Ratnakar's name has been lost to time by all except the forest. Though Ratnakar would come to bear a new name, one that would outlive kings and empires. Valmiki. Valmiki, the poet of Rama and Sita. And so our story begins with a man who changed his fate. The sun was a broken yoke, spilling gold between the trees, when a sage appeared, wearing a long, grey, weather-worn robe and carrying a wooden staff in his right hand. Ratnakar lay nearby, crouching in the undergrowth, slowly breathing, his knife hot against his calloused palm. The grey sage walked alone, his robe swaying almost imperceptibly. A veena, an ancient Indian musical instrument, was slung across his back. This was no ordinary traveller. Ratnakar could sense it in the way the trees stilled and the air shimmered around him. But this was Ratnakar's forest, and his hands were tense as he stepped into the sage's path. Ratnakar leered at the sage.
Your money or your life? Choose, or I'll choose for you.
He laughed scornfully, a sound like rusty old iron. The sage paused, a smile on his lips. He didn't even blink.
Neither
his voice as melodious as Shiva's flute.
I have no wealth to give, and my life is not yours to take.
The lack of fear in the sage's eyes unsettled Ratnakar. Men were supposed to fear him. They were supposed to cower, to run, or to bare their teeth and helplessly try to fight back. He enjoyed that the most. But this man, this sage, looked at him with something strange in his expression. Something soft, something that didn't belong in the shadows of Ratnakar's forest. Compassion, a word Ratnakar had never needed, a thing he'd never known.
Why aren't you afraid of me?
The sage pursed his lips a little, as if the question amused him.
Because fear is a shadow. It vanishes when you step into the light.
The forest seemed to lean in, leaves whispering like a curious audience. Ratnakar felt uneasy and lowered his knife ever so slightly. Now the sage turned squarely to face him. He had no knife, no weapon, but his words disarmed Ratnakar.
Do you know who carries the weight, the responsibility of your sins?
Ratnakar hesitated. He wanted to give a clever answer to this sage. So he quickly said,
My family shares in my sins. I kill and steal for them. They share the responsibility.
The sage tilted his head like a teacher hearing the wrong answer to a simple question.
Are you certain of that? Why don't you go and ask them?
Ratnakar leered again, baring his teeth and emitting a harsh, bitter sound.
And if they say no, what then? Then you will return to me,
said the sage,
and we will find a new path for you.
The forest drew back as Ratnakar turned and stalked away, a furrow in his brow. His family, his wife, his children, all said the same thing. It was his responsibility to provide for them, and his sins were his to carry alone. They accepted no responsibility. When Ratnakar returned to the sage, his head was drooping and the fight seemed drained from him. His knife hung limply against his side, his eyes cast downward.
They will not share in my sins.
The sage nodded, unsurprised.
Then you must carry them alone. How?
The word escaped from Ratnakar.
How do I carry this weight? Chant the name of Rama,
said the sage. Ratnakar screwed his eyes shut and tried to utter the name, but it caught in his throat. Unfamiliar and too sacred for a man like him.
I cannot say it.
The sage smiled a little wider.
Then chant the word Mara. It means tree. Something you know well. Begin.
Under the shade of a great banyan tree, Ratnakar sat, his voice dry and halting at first, muttering "Mara" into the whispering leaves. The word flowed from his mouth and out into the forest, over roots and branches, circling back to him, infused with a strange power. Mara, Mara, Mara. The words slowly began to shift like a kaleidoscope. Repeated enough times, the word Mara became Rama, gaining a new rhythm like a slow, steady drumbeat around an ancient fire. Time lost its meaning. Day turned to night. Seasons passed. But Ratnakar didn't move. His chant became a prayer. His prayer became a meditation. A still awareness so deep that the forest began to grow over him. Ants built their home upon his body, encasing him in the earth. When the sage returned some years later, he found an anthill where the bandit once sat. With a single touch of his staff, the sage cracked the mound in two, revealing a man with a long, bushy beard, unruly eyebrows, long hair in dreadlocks, and a fierce beauty in his expression. This man was no longer Ratnakar, and so that name was forgotten by all except the forest.
Rise. You are Valmiki now, a poet, not a thief. The song of Rama is within you.
And so Valmiki, which means anthill, began his epic tale. The forest holds all the stories of the world. If you listen carefully enough, you'll hear them. The story Valmiki told began with the cry of a dying bird, an arrow through its breast, its mate fluttering in helpless grief on the banks of the Tamasa River. Valmiki felt the arrow pierce his own heart too. And at that moment he knew this would be a story of love, a great love, and a great loss. Words began to tumble from Valmiki's lips in perfect rhythm. So the story of Rama begins not with a battle or the triumph of a hero, but with love and loss, the eternal story of the universe. A long time ago, on the banks of the great river Sarayu, lay the city of Ayodhya, its golden rooftops glistening in the light of the sun. It was a grand city where the murmur of prayers mingled with the clip-clop of horse hooves on its wide, sun-baked streets. In those days, it was ruled by King Dasharatha, the wise and noble descendant of Ikshvaku, the first of the great kings of the solar dynasty. But for all his wisdom and power, Dasharatha carried a deep longing in his heart. He had no heir to inherit his kingdom, no son to continue his life's work. His duty wasn't just to rule, but also to protect his people, his realm, and the sacred balance of dharma. But with no heir, his legacy felt fragile, like a lamp flickering in a fickle breeze. With this longing weighing on him like a great stone, he sought counsel from his wise guru, the renowned sage Vasishta, whose intellect was as formidable as his thick, white beard. Vasishta sat before the king, curling his fingers through his facial hair, his eyes filled with knowing. He thought for a moment, then finally spoke.
Your Majesty, you must perform the Ashwamedha Yagna, the great horse sacrifice, and the Putra Mishti Yagna, the rite of longing. These sacred rites will call upon the old divine powers. Only a blessing from the heavens can grant you an heir. This task is above any mortal power.
Far beyond the kingdom of Ayodhya, in the celestial realms where time is an ever-folding fractal, the gods gathered in dismay. For Ravana, the demon king of Lanka, had become a plague on the universe, his demonic powers spreading like wildfire through dry fields. No god, no celestial, no demon or beast could stand against him, for he had once received a boon from Brahma, creator of the universe.
No celestial, no demon, no beast shall be able to defeat you.
And so Ravana's darkness grew unabated. The gods turned to Vishnu, the preserver, the wielder of the discus, the god who walks among mortals when the world falls into shadow and the flame of dharma burns low. Vishnu listened to all that was said, his expression unreadable. Then a slow, knowing smile curled the corner of his lips.
I will go. I will be born among mortals and stripped of my divine power. I will walk as one of them, suffer as one of them. Yes, I shall be human again.
For a moment, golden light flickered in his eyes, tiny flames dancing like tongues of fire. Even as Vishnu turned his gaze towards Ayodhya, the sacrificial fires of Dasharatha began to roar. Sage Vasishta raised an earthenware cup and poured sacred ghee, clarified butter, into the glowing flames. The fire reared up like dragon heads, writhing in an ancient, mystical dance, Vasishta's invocations guiding them, bringing choreography to the chaos. From the jaws of the fire, a great golden tongue emerged, its form shifting, its voice whispering words that only King Dasharatha and the sage could understand.
Let your queens rub my ash into their
his hands trembling with joy and wonder, took a sprinkling of ash from the fire and gave half to his first wife, Kausalya, and divided the rest between Sumitra and Kaikeyi. As the sage had prophesied, the divine powers were pleased with the sacrifice, and 4 sons were granted to Dasharatha, each a reflection of Vishnu's essence, yet bound in mortal form. Kausalya gave birth to Rama, whose eyes were speckled with tiny flecks of fire. Kaikeyi gave birth to Bharata, a child with the strength of 10 men. Sumitra gave birth to twins, Lakshmana and Shatrughna. From the moment Lakshmana opened his eyes, they followed only one thing: Rama. Like a compass needle seeking its true north, his gaze locked onto his elder brother. The 4 heirs were so born on a moonless night, the stars shining brightly like a great map of the universe, with the city of Ayodhya at its center. That night, Ayodhya bloomed like phosphorescent algae, pulsing with life. Its streets were billowing streams of color as dyed garments floated through the torchlight. Music guided the celebrations, each street a song adding to the larger, blissful cacophony that washed over the city, conducted by unseen hands. The 4 heirs were welcomed into the world with so much love and so much hope. No one there present could have guessed at the trials that would touch these innocent lives, just as the spring bloom is trampled under the wild boar's hooves. Of the 4 sons, Rama shone the brightest. He was a quick learner, fearless, curious, steady and confident, always striving to do his very best. He walked the path of dharma without hesitation. For 16 untroubled years, the princes grew together, a playful rivalry developing between them. Seasons came and went. But then, on the day they turned 16, the famous sage Vishwamitra arrived at Dasharatha's court like a hurricane, bringing news that would set destiny in motion. Vishwamitra, rumbling like thunder, told the king's court of a powerful demoness, Tataka, who was desecrating temples and defiling the sacred ritual fires with blood and filth. Vishwamitra spoke of a vision he had, that only Rama could defeat Tataka, this noxious being.
This I am certain of,
he said as he rapped his great elm staff on the ground in the king's echoing hall. Dasharatha hesitated. His son Rama was undoubtedly strong, but only this very day had turned 16 years of age. How could he command his untested son to take on this formidable demoness?
my entire army is at your disposal, great sage,
Dasharatha said, his tone edged with both respect and unease. But Vishwamitra stood firm, his eyes sharp as a falcon's gaze.
Only Rama can complete this task,
he boomed.
The demoness is bound by dark magic, and only Rama carries a light pure enough to break her arcane protection.
The king hesitated again. His son was so young, and the weight of a father's love clashed with his kingly duty.
I offer myself my own life,
he said, hoping for another way. Vishwamitra's eyes darkened with understanding. He had seen this hesitation before, had seen countless kings try to shield their sons from fate. But just then, Rama stepped forward. He said nothing. He didn't need to. The look in his eyes told Dasharatha everything. He was ready. Dasharatha gazed at his son lovingly. Rama had grown so fast, and he was sad, but also proud that his boy was now becoming a man. With his lips pressed tightly together, Dasharatha commanded his son to fulfill his duty and sent him forth with sage Vishwamitra. Rama slung his bow over his shoulder and touched the sage's feet before departing with him. As he followed Vishwamitra into the unknown, another set of footsteps followed behind him, unseen, unheard.
End of part 1.